Okay, everyone, welcome to a very special edition of Switch of Play. Micky, delighted to be back, and this week we've got a right treat in store for everyone. Haven't we, Joel Porter, coming on?
Yeah, it's going to be a cracker, I think, probably what he would say. I think we've got to be really grateful because he's getting up really early to do it for us. We did offer to put it later so he could get up a bit later, but I think he just shows the type of guy he is that he wants to get up. I think it's 4:30 his time in Australia to do it for us. So, yeah, really looking for him. A real good guy, really good guy. So
he was very popular, wasn't he, in the dressing room?
Yeah, everyone loved him. Everybody loved him. There wasn't anyone that... I mean, you have the odd spats with people and arguments, but he's just the type of guy that most of the time he's got a smile on his face and he's a pleasure to be with. He really is.
In terms of your week, Mick, I know have you had a good one?
It's been mixed, to be honest, Mark. I've been trying to get out on my bike a couple of times. I've had an accident. I smashed my head open on a clothes, opening up the clothes horse thing outside. Yeah. So it's got 3 prongs on it. I opened 2 up, the other one bashed it straight in the face. So, hey, not too bad.
I know you keep in touch with Joel on the group chat, but when was the last time you actually had a conversation with him? When was the last time you spoke to him?
It'll have been at the reunion.
Reunion.
Yeah, I think because of the WhatsApp groups, you tend not to pick the phone up because you're in contact daily, if not every other couple of days. So yeah, it'll be at the reunion last time I seen him, and again, it just shows what a popular player and person he was with the reception he got that night.
Right, well, without further ado, Joel Porter, welcome to Switch to Play. How are you keeping?
Yeah, good, man. Good. A little bit chilly here in Australia at the minute during winter time, but besides that, we're all good.
And we were just saying, you've got up so early for us. I mean, it's, what is it, just coming up to 8 o'clock here. It's 4:30 in the morning where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, 4:30 in the morning. That's why it's a little bit dark, because I can't have all the lights on. Otherwise, the little one, the 8-year-old Bradley, will be up, and if he's up, that's everyone up. So you'll just have to bear with the dimness, I think, boys.
No, that's fine.
I mean, in terms of, obviously the world's going through a quite strange period now. We're starting to get back to some sense of normality, aren't we? How's it been over there in Australia?
Yeah, we've not had it too bad. Some states have had it worse than others, but my state, South Australia, we had a couple of cases early on that came from overseas. But we've had no transmissions, like local transmissions at all. And I think we've had pretty much for the last 6-8 weeks one positive test in SA. So our borders are closed. We can't fly anywhere at the minute or drive into another state. But that's okay. That just means at the minute we can't catch anything. But our the local soccer here is just starting up again next week with the juniors and the local girls teams and the senior men's, which I coach as well. That starts in about a week. So everything's starting to get back to normal here.
Yeah, good. And Joel, is gyms open? And because at the minute pubs aren't open here, so that's a big thing for people that are desperate to get back to pubs, which is understandable for some people. Gyms as well. I know a lot of people are desperate for the gyms. Have things like that shut down in Australia, or have they always been open?
No, some states they're shut down. We're actually at the stage where pubs can have, I think it's gone up to about 100, maybe 200 people in it. You still have to social distance once you get your beer and things like that. But you can now start have people in there, have dinner. You can't hang around for 4 or 5 hours, but you can certainly have dinner for 2 hours, a couple of pints, and move on. And the gyms are the same. They're depending on how big your gym is. If it's a nice big open one, then you can probably have 80 to 100 people in there. But it's the same thing. Once you use equipment now, you're wiping it down. Everyone's washing their hands and sanitizing and doing all that stuff. So I think that's just.
I heard today that in a pub you're gonna have to sit at the table. You're gonna have to order from your table.
Yes.
You're gonna have to book a time to go in. I was thinking, how ran off the feet are the people behind the bar going to be if you want to get a plate? So you have to I'll order one from here. They're going to run there. They're going to have to.
And when you get there, you got to give him your name and number, telephone number as well. So ID, just so if anyone obviously tests positive and they've been at the pub, that you can be notified and let know. So we're now stepping it up. Soccer games and things like that, events are now, I think, up to 500 people. So, or that's the next stage, which may be later in the week. So weddings, funerals, all those things, people will be able to start having again.
And you're up early, crack of dawn, Joel, to get yourself sorted for. What is it you do for work now? What are you doing for a living?
Just in the logistics side of things. So I work for a company that we import stuff from overseas, a little bit of office work, forklift work. I drive the big forklift containers. So getting them off trucks, putting them on trucks, things like that. So it's nothing too exciting, but my concentration was on football when I was young, which is what I tell my second youngest. Get studying, mate, because you don't want to do what I do after football.
But you do plenty of the football stuff as well. You alluded to it already. You've done plenty of coaching in men's football, women's football, and in the junior stuff. You've got it right across the board. Yeah,
so I coach a senior men's side, which is in the the third division here in South Australia. So they're actually a countryside. So half our team train here in Adelaide, half train 2 hours away. So a bit like Hartlepool and Sheffield. And then we come together for games. So we play half our games in the country, half in Adelaide. So I've got the senior men's side there. My daughter plays Div 1 women's football, and I coach her. She's 17 now, Chloe. So I coach her. So I do that. They play Sundays. I do that Monday, Wednesdays. The senior boys I do Tuesday, Thursdays, and play Saturdays. And then my little one, my 8-year-old boy, he's just started under 9. So I'm sort of helping the club out there as a technical director for their juniors.
Fantastic.
Do a bit of that. And my middle boy, Jake, he's actually in the state side for his age group.
Right.
So he's full on. He's pretty much 4 days a week plus games.
Okay. So you passed on the genes.
What's that?
You've passed on the football genes, then, have you?
Yeah, he's loving it, mate. He can't wait to play for Hartlepool, to be honest.
That would be a story, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he can't wait. He wants to get over there now.
Who's he playing for, England or Australia?
Well, this is the controversy, because he's leading towards England, mate.
Brilliant. So, yes. Go on.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit unhappy about that. I might have to kick him out soon.
You've lost some of your Hartlepool twang since you've gone back over there as well.
Haven't I? It's all the rellos when I first came back noticed it, that I'd pretty much turned Hartlepoolian. It's definitely, all that accent's definitely gone now.
I mean, Micky, what was he like? What was it like when Joel first arrived at Hartlepool? What memories have you got of the Joel Porter arrival?
To be honest, I was hugely disappointed, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I'd played with an Australian international before at Middlesbrough, and Mark Schwarzer was the goalkeeper, and obviously Mark is 6'3", tan. Yeah. I was thinking all these Aussies are the same. They're going to walk in. He's going to have long hair. He's going to have in the whitest Australian I've ever seen. I was underwhelmed when I saw him. I was like, nah.
He's lying. He's not Australian.
Honestly, I remember that from the very first week in training, just looking at him and just the effort he put into training and his ability in training. I mean, we didn't know him as a person. Then you can only go off what you see on the training pitch. You wouldn't see him much after because we didn't know him. But you could just tell that he was going to fit in because of his work ethic, really, and the ability that came with that. And then when you get to know him, you realise what a fantastic guy he is as well. And you put those two things together, and it makes a fantastic person and player.
How did you end up in Hartlepool then, Joel? Tell us the story. There was quite a convoluted sort of journey through
Yeah, look, I actually signed a pre-contract to play in Turkey.
Right.
In 2003. Went over there for a team called Gaziantepspor. So went from my club here in Australia to there in pre-season. Picked up an early injury, and pretty much the club said, "You're going." So I'm pretty much at the time, I think the Iraq War was on. So Gaziantepspor is about an hour, 2 hours from the Iraq border drive. So it was a bit in the middle of nowhere, and I was there by myself. And obviously the missus had just had my little one, Chloe, and I was thinking anyway, geez, I can't bring the family here. It's, it just wasn't suitable. I mean, if I was single and just traveling the world by myself and playing football, then might have been an opportunity to play. But it just ended up that I copped an injury. They wanted me out, so I left. Came to England. Went to Wigan initially and stayed there for a good 2-3 weeks. Paul Jewell was the manager. There were a couple of players who was there. Jimmy Bullard was there at the time. They were in the Championship. It wasn't called the Championship then. I think it was Div 1 back then.
Yeah, it was.
So they were there, and I was training there, and I was having a few issues with the visa and being able to play trial games, and because a lot of teams at that stage were becoming reluctant to play you under someone else's name. Hartlepool weren't. We'll get to that.
No,
in a
no
minute,
such trouble. You and Dimmy were a different player every week, weren't you?
But so it sort of became a little bit difficult, and then Sunderland were struggling at the time as well, so they were looking for a couple of players, and I went up to Sunderland, and I might have been just 3-4 days, maybe 5 there. And at the time, they were looking to sign a striker pretty quickly. And I did really well. I played in a trial game and set up a goal. Who's the striker that come and played for us later? Blonde hair from Sunderland. Michael Proctor. I set up Proctor for a goal. Mick McCarthy was the coach at the time, and the only problem is there was another striker trialling at the time, Tommy Smith. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
So they went sort of his way. Mick pulled me into his office and went, Joel, look, the chairman wants me to sign one player. Tommy Smith's got Premier League experience. You've come from Australia. I don't know where you, don't know who you are, sort of thing. So he goes, you've done really well. If you want me to pass on your name to anyone, that's we will. And I went, no, that's understandable. And I mean, Jason McAteer was there at the time. Phil Babb, I remember Phil Babb being there. They'd only just sort of come down from the Premier League, so they still had some Premier League players there. So that was for me. That was a good experience, because that sort of showed me the sort of level you needed to get to at the higher level, and sort of that I wasn't one of the numbers.
Yeah.
You sort of get that feeling, okay, maybe I belong, not necessarily in the Championship, but sort of somewhere around in the English Football League. So that sort of happened. Then that was sort of midweek, and then my agent, who was in Australia at the time, goes, oh, look, I want you to go to Plymouth. There's Phil Sturridge was the coach at the time. Was it Paul Sturridge? They're looking for a player. So, all right, no worries. Where's Plymouth? Oh, you got to get on a train for a 7.5 hour train ride. Are you kidding me or what? Are you taking the piss? He goes, no, you got to. I'll book the ticket, just get on the train and get there until the last stop, because you can't go any further.
So
I went there.
Joel, you're happy to fly 24 hours from Australia, but you'll not go 7 hours on a...
At this stage, Mick, I'd been away for a while, so I was starting to get a bit antsy.
I was going to ask you that, Joel, and I'll stop you in the middle of it. Did it ever get to the point where you thought, nothing's going to happen? Did it ever? Did you get to the point where you thought, I'll just go home, or?
Yeah, that's it, pretty much after Plymouth. So I got to Plymouth and played a trial game up front for them, and again did fine, did pretty good, and then sometimes you think some coaches maybe make excuses for not signing you anyway. But Paul come and said good things, and he just said, look, if you're a left winger, I'd sign you. But you came as a striker, and I got plenty of strikers. So at that stage, then that's when I went, well, why the hell is my agent sending me 7.5 hours on a train? Right? I've been away from the family. Meanwhile, like, my daughter's only 3-4 months old, so starting to do all that. Got the missing the missus and everyone else. So that's when I rang. After that, I said to my agent, look, book a ticket home, mate. I've been here that long. There's issues with the visa, obviously. Then, I'm getting so close, yet no one's willing to take that jump. He goes, yeah, no problem. So anyway, next week, meanwhile, when I was at Sunderland, Alan Ball took me for a couple of training sessions because he was involved with the club. And obviously Alan Ball was good mates with Martin Scott.
Kevin Ball.
Kevin Ball, sorry. Yes, Kevin Ball. Yeah, I knew you'd get that. I'm bad with names. Kevin Ball. So he's good friends with Martin Scott. So in the meantime, he's mentioned to Scotty, we've got this white Australian. Did all right. Are you looking for a striker? And they said yes. Anyway, little known to me, I didn't know where Hartlepool was. So my agent goes, oh, yeah, we got one more for you. I said, I'm done. I literally said, I'm done, mate. Mentally, I can't. Every time because I wasn't, if you're doing bad, you could understand. But, as a player, you're looking at other players and you're going, okay, I'm not any worse off, or it just wasn't happening. And I said, look, mate, I'm done. I said, no. He goes, come on, one more. I said, all right, where is it? He goes, Hartlepool. I said, all right, well, I've never heard of that, but right, where is it? And he goes, do you know where Sunderland was? Yeah. He goes, about half an hour from there. I hung up on him. I didn't answer his call for about 2 hours. Sat there in the little bed and breakfast. Anyway, I eventually answered. He goes, come on, mate, one more. Do me a favour. He goes, because the agent at the time had Dimmy as well. Dimmy Konstantopoulos, the goalkeeper. So I went, he goes, I've got a Greek goalkeeper there as well. Once you get there, you'll have someone to stay with, and you'll know one of the boys and all that. And I went, I've got to think about this, man. You've got to be, because the flight was from London. So, you're talking a 2-hour train ride compared to another 7.5. So in the end, I went, all right, one more. So that was Saturday night. So Sunday morning, I caught the train, got off at Hartlepool, got a cab to Seaton Carew, the old bed and breakfast at Seaton Carew there. Got there, and Dimmy was there, Ryan McCann was there, and another young Australian Adelaide boy who was trialling at the time. He actually hurt himself. Is it Adam?
Van Dommel.
Adam Van Dommel. He's actually still playing here in the local leagues, so I see him every now and then. He was there. So there was the 4 of us there, and got there the Sunday night, and then on the Monday came the training and walked in, and I remember feeling very intimidated because the change rooms were really small at Maiden Castle there. Yeah. So walking in, and then there was no seats. So I remember just putting my bag in the shower area.
Micky, where were you? Where was the captain? Come on.
I was probably having a cup of tea or coffee. I just want to know how you turned down a club in Turkey because it was close to Iraq, and then you were happy when you landed in Hartlepool.
Yeah, well, maybe the war thing, mate. I don't know.
I apologise if I wasn't very welcoming on that first day, Joel. I really do.
No, you do. You sort of understand it as a player once you get signed and you're involved in, because at the end of the day, it's a business. Someone else comes in means someone's taking your job. But once people earn the right and the respect and all of that, like you said, Mick, if you come in and do the right things, most of the time the players turn and accept you and want you to be part of the squad. But if you're not doing the right things, that's when I think you get a little bit alienated and get a little bit pushed to the side, and it becomes more difficult. So for me, coming in with the right attitude and doing the right things, and like you said, you see me training hard. That just wanted to be my, my sort of background. I wanted to be known for that I'd work hard no matter what, be there and do whatever I needed for the boys. And I sort of trained that Monday morning. I think it was with the Resies, because you guys might have had a Tuesday game coming up,
right?
The senior side, and then there happened to be on the Monday night one of them silly cup games where they put the Resies in, just a local.
Yeah, the Durham.
Not the Johnston Paint Trophy one, but the next one down. Yeah, the Durham Challenge Cup, whatever it is. So I went there and I played under, I think it was Philly Turnbull.
Yeah. Wasn't he got another mention?
Yeah. And we ended up winning 6-0, obviously. I set up Appleby, young Appleby. Yeah. He scored a couple of goals. Jack Wilkinson, was it Jack Wilkinson as well? Yeah. He scored a couple of goals, and obviously I set a couple up and scored a couple. And Philly Turnbull got a ride up in the local rag, and
we were laughing.
Who's this player?
We were laughing at the time because I think James Winter almost got a move on the back of Dimmy's stretch in the reserve.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, because Dimmy was involved as well.
Going back to Appo that you mentioned there, Joel. Appo, eventually when he left football, he decided he wanted to be a plasterer. So when Humps was living up here at a cottage up on the way to concert near Lanchester, he needed some plastering work doing, so he said, Appo, can you come up and do me plastering? So he went, yeah, leave it with us. So Appo's come up and he plastered the whole front room. And Holmes went, I walked in, I was like, bloody hell, he's actually done a good job. And he was quite taken aback. But then he realised there was no sockets. He plastered it. He just plastered everywhere. There's no sockets left in the house.
That sums Appleby up, that, doesn't it? That's brilliant.
Can I ask Joel? I think people will be interested. When the train's pulling into Hartlepool and you're getting in that taxi to Seaton Crew, what were your very first? Yeah. What were your thoughts as the taxi's taking you to Seaton Crew? I bet it wasn't. I bet this will be home for the next 6 years. I'm sure that wasn't. But what were your first impressions?
No, it was about October, so it wasn't sort of cold, but it was, it had a little, especially on the seafront there, it had a bit of a chill to it, the old wind. And then going along, and it's obviously different to the south of England, where the buildings and all that are obviously maybe a little bit newer and things like that. But to be honest, I was concentrating on the football. I really wanted to play in England. And at the time it was like, okay, this is the last one. This is definitely the last chance.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't happen here, then, I'll be going home and obviously find a club back home again. But, the rest is history sort of thing. And it was probably now I look back, the best decision I ever made, taking that train back up to Hartlepool.
Joel, do you think, were you having that sort of mentality that this is my last, I'm not really that bothered what happens type of thing, and it maybe relaxed you a little bit and you thought, well, it's shit or bust really, I've got nothing to lose. Yeah. I can quite happily go there, and if I don't get anything, I know I'm going home to the wife.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you know what I mean? Do you think that had an impact on the way how you train, how you played in the games? And
yeah, I think so. I think definitely. There wasn't that, okay, this is the be all and end all. And I'd sort of come to the conclusion that, if this doesn't happen, then, fine, we'll go back to Australia and, find an Aussie club there would have been wouldn't have been easy to get an Aussie club, but obviously I was established in Australia, so I would have found something in the end. So yeah, I think that sort of maybe showed in the game when I played, because there wasn't that stress. Oh, I have to perform. It just sort of came natural, and I think maybe that's what Scotty and Coops sort of noticed, that it wasn't that tension there, or over trying to overplay things. Everything I did, all the flicks and the turns and whatever I tried to do, all came off, but it was all, it wasn't stuff done under pressure. It was that, the weight has should have sort of been lifted off the shoulders, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely helped me show Coops and Scotty, that my potential anyway.
And Joel, how long? I mean, you know as well as anyone, Simo's and definitely knows over the last few weeks how bad my memory is. But how long was it from arriving until they offered you a contract that you were happy to sort of sign? How long did that go on for?
No, it was only less than a week. But the club Hartlepool were the only club to give me the opportunity to try and get a visa.
Right.
So they were willing to wait. I had to wait 11 weeks.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's why my first game was around late November, early December.
And Joel, I'd love to know how you sold that to the missus. Did you say
well, it sounds pretty bad the way it was, but obviously we'd already had a kid, a child. We were engaged, so we're already planning to have a wedding in SA. But before I met Kirsty, I was already in the throes of semi-professional football here in Australia, and I pretty much said, look, this is my life. I really want to push forward on it. I'm going to have to sometimes spend time away. So, we were together maybe 12, 18 months, and then I had to move to Victoria for 2 years anyway. So we were apart for a little bit there. That's when we got engaged. Not long after, obviously, we had Chloe. So, it was sort of the next progression anyway. It just had to be fast-tracked for me to progress in football. And the only other good thing for me is she was English. So she didn't mind coming to England to live. She had family here. She knew the country. She was excited to come. The only drawback for her was she had to marry me to get here, to get back to Hartlepool. So
she's been regretting ever since.
Yeah, but she reminds me every morning, mate. Don't worry about that. But so they said we want to sign you. So I thought great, and then my agent told me, you got to fly back to Australia, get your visa, and then you got to get married, sort of thing. So when was it? I think who'd we play that first game?
Was it Peterborough?
No, it wasn't Peterborough. Red team.
On your debut?
Yeah. Swindon. Was it Swindon?
You're testing me now. I should have looked that up, really, shouldn't I? That should have been
Jack Wilkinson. Yeah, mate, you're not doing your work again. Surprise, surprise, eh?
No wonder
I reckon it was Swindon, because Jack Wilkinson played.
Swindon, definitely Swindon, Joel. I remember that.
Yeah.
Was it when
You're
Jack
good memory, Mick.
scored the goal near the end to make it 2-0?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So prior to that weekend, on the Saturday, I flew back to Australia, got my visa stamped in Canberra, pretty much had no sleep, flew back to England, arrived on the Monday, got everything signed, sealed, delivered, signed the contract by the Wednesday, and Coops wanted me to play on the Saturday. And the rest is history. I did okay that game, and then we had the FA Cup against Burton Albion the following week.
Oh, that's right.
And then Tinks set one up for me on the platter, and it was just a tap in, and from there that's pretty much how my Hartlepool side sort of started. And then that first 6 months was really difficult. It was a really good start, obviously, but then the transition of football, you know, training every day, sometimes 2 games a week. You know, my body and my mental side of football wasn't prepared for that. Which when I look back is probably why I was sort of in and out of the team that first 6 months, because you'd have highs and then lows, and
there was sort of a reputation, I think, around you at the time, Joel, of you being almost unselfish to the point where it was costing you. You know what I mean? There was times where people were saying, "Why hasn't he had a shot there? He's tried to find a teammate," and it wasn't until possibly, you know, later in that season that something just clicked with you, and then it all just went from there, didn't it?
We all thought the shooting was crap. That's what we thought it was. He just kept
well, it wasn't. You know, in training, you only had Dimmy and Jim Provitt in goal, mate, so it was easy. During games, we actually had proper goalkeepers we had to do. That was always part of my game. I was just very unselfish, and you're right. I had to sort of get my mindset out of that, because, you know, to be better in the English game, and especially you had to be selfish at times, you know, and it wasn't. You had to find that balance where you were selfish, but still, you know, a good team player, and finding that balance, I think, took me, like you said, a good couple of months, 6 months, and then the turning point was that that Bristol City goal in the playoffs. You know, that's the playoffs over there. Everyone asks. It's hard to explain what the feeling's like. You know, it's really difficult it's just a different type of game. And when you do something in those games, people never forget them. You know, it's people that have been at that game. I've got a young lad who coaches with me at Flinders Flames. He's from Hartlepool.
Right.
So I met him coaching against him, and he goes, "Are you Joel Porter?" I said, "Yeah." Yes. He goes, "I've got a shirt here. I want you to sign it." And he pulled out a Hartlepool shirt, and at the end of a game, it was an under 15 girls game, my daughter's game. He goes, "I've moved here. I'm, you know, lifelong Hartlepool fan." And now he's coaching with me. But he remembers he was at that game. You know, he remembers all of those, and he brings up moments that I sometimes forget. So, it was just a.
You talk about the enormity of that goal, and people remember it. I mean, I remember, and I think I probably said this to you before, but it's one of my big memories. Is where I went out for a couple of beers after the game, celebrated. We got a decent result in the end against Bristol, and I saw you in. I think it was Yates's in Hartlepool, and there were grown men queuing up to just talk to you and give you a cuddle and tell you how much it meant to them that you'd got that goal and kept us in the tie.
Yeah, I didn't pay for a drink that night. It was good. Never. Come on now. Name's not Sweens or Humps. Come on.
To be honest, Joel, Simon put a thing on Twitter today. I think it was a YouTube thing, wasn't it? And you mentioned the tapping, the teams give you a burden, but there was some unbelievable strikes on and goals where you think, I mean, I can't remember them, but like some unbelievable goals that you scored in your time.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because you know, when I left, I got Mark to organise a DVD of all my goals for Hartlepool, and that was fantastic. He did that, and we were just talking the other day, because my middle boy Jake, he's 13 now. He's obviously wanting to go play further, and he's talking about some of his goals. And I went, "All right, mate, I've got a DVD for you." So they come sit down, put the DVD on. I said, "Now here's some goals. Look at this." And it was funny because we were watching it, and as it was happening, I was telling them what was happening before it happened. Yeah, just absolutely remembered it all. Pretty much, you know, you'd only see my goal, but I'd remember the end score of the game and who scored in the other goals. And, you know, I couldn't tell you now, but just seeing the footage, it would just click who we were playing, who we won, you know, where we were playing, what the score was at the end of the game, half time, all those things.
It's funny, Joe, because I was watching some videos, on YouTube with my boys the other day, and obviously they're just goals, and they were like, "Dad, how come the only time we ever see it is when you concede?" I was like, "Well, I didn't score many, but I didn't go and celebrate either when the lads scored." And they were like, why not? I said, well, I just couldn't be bothered to run all the way. By the time I got there, they were normally
You had to
finished.
run back.
I have to run back. So I used to just turn around and probably like high five Dimmy or whoever was.
Dimmy, yeah.
They were like, but like, that's the most enjoyable part of it. And you couldn't even enjoy that because the calls are like miserable git as it is. And I was like, I just thought I used to just think, well, I'll just get myself sorted back here.
Yeah, you had other jobs, mate. You were trying to make sure that we didn't concede a minute later, mate. That was your.
But honestly, some of the goals, and like you say, you look back at them and you think, there's so many that just go top corner, and fantastic, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, you don't sort of remember it like that at the time, but you know that's obviously why it's a good little DVD, because you can reminisce and you know you look at one game and then you can think about some of the stuff that happened in training prior to that, and all sorts of memories just come back. You know, it's good times.
You mentioned obviously you going in the dressing room on the first day, and there's that sort of the tension of that situation, but you very quickly became a big part of the team spirit that they had at the time, because it was a big factor in the success, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the first week I was there, it was, you know, trying to find out who's who and all of that. But I think the second week we had a day out on the Tuesday, I reckon, and pretty much got invited to that. And there was a few pints and a few 8-ball games, and by the end of that, you know, we were like best mates. It was pretty much back to, and you felt at home, you know, because you're right, there wasn't one bad bloke in that squad.
So Joel, you know, when you walked in that dressing room, Wesley told me a story. It was only years later that he actually confessed, because me and Wesley roomed together for probably 5 or 6 years, like really cool. And I said, you know, what were your first impressions? A bit like you there. What were your first impressions? He said, well, I looked around the change room and I saw you and I thought, I'll sit right next to him. And I was like, oh, cheers, mate. Is it because I was friendly? And he went, no, it's because you were skinhead. And I thought, if anyone's going to be a racist, it'll be you. I was like, oh, that's nice. I was like, that's how our friendship started, because you thought I was a racist.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So when you walk in the dressing room, like the first week, there's obviously a lot of characters in that dressing room.
Yeah.
Like your first impressions of certain people. Who do you think I've got to keep an eye on him, or he's a joker that I need to be aware of?
No, there wasn't really anyone that stood out. To be honest, when I walked in, I didn't make eye contact with anyone. I sort of just shuffled to the side and went to where the showers were and put my bag. I just, you know, that was my personality anyway, especially if I didn't know you. Once I got to know you, obviously, I came out of my shell a bit. But, there wasn't anyone that sort of attracted my eye, if you know what I mean. But, you know, once training started and all that, and obviously traveling in with the big Greek Dimmy, we got a pretty good friendship going, and you know, we became pretty good friends during our Hartlepool time. So it was good to have him there as well. That sort of helped us at the initial stages as well.
Yeah, I think that obviously formed a fantastic friendship between the pair of you. But I think you had a decent car school as well, with a couple others in it at times. I think, who else was in the car school that used to share?
You're not going to bring up my car, are you?
Yeah.
Is that where you're going, Micky?
The Daewoo, come on, man. That was the best car, the Daewoo.
That was the Daewoo.
Mate, I was...
So that's reckon that you bought it for $3,000 and sold it for
Bracker, good old John Bracker, mate. He's killing me. 99% I lost. 99%.
What was the story?
Well, obviously, my first contract at Hartlepool wasn't awesome. So, you know, I wasn't able to go out and get, you know, a fancy little car. So I had to sort of get whatever a sponsor could give us. And a sponsor, I still had to pay for it, by the way. And it cost me $3,000. I'm probably only worth 500 at the time, but it cost me $3,000, and I don't even know if it lasted 6 months, 12 months. I just remember one way on the way to training one day. Luckily, I was by myself. Managed to be by myself. I broke down and I thought, oh shit, I'm going to be late. And late meant fines. So I was panicking. I'm thinking, oh no, if you miss a whole training session, it's like £100 or something like that. And I'm just, oh God, here we go. So I'm trying to ring boys around and rang Trigger and said, oh Trigger, have you left yet? He goes, no, we're just about around the roundabout. I said, oh good, because I'm on the left-hand side, the car's broken down. He goes, yeah, no worries. And obviously Westy pulled up with Trigger and I jumped in with them and got to training, and then obviously had to buy a new car because I was devastated the day we had gone. But I'm thinking, I'll get £500 for it. That's all right, no worries. The bloody tow truck comes. Oh yeah, we'll take it away off your hands for £30. Are you serious? I went, all right, just take it, mate. Just take it.
I'll tell you why he had no money. The real reason he had it wasn't anything to do with his contract. It was the Westie's mate was selling and Joe bought one in every colour going. So every day in training, you should come with pair shorts, Von Dutch t-shirt, next day, pair shorts, one in a different.
The Von Dutch used to be in a different colour. They were black with a yellow, a pink, a blue. Oh, it was funny. Good times, man. Good
was your
times.
wardrobe?
That was my best wardrobe, mate. There wasn't a week gone by where my clothes weren't hung up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What was it? What do you mean hung up?
They just hang them up in the change rooms. What are you wearing, mate?
We had the worst gear at the time, Mark. And someone would get them, put them on a coat hanger and hang them up underneath the ceiling. Or they'd get one of the mannequins we used to do the free kicks around and put it around the mannequin. And you know what I mean? So Jules was often quite hanging from the ceiling by the time we got in.
A bit like if you wore that top into the change rooms, Mark, that you're wearing now.
There you go.
I like it. Then you'd know how I feel every training session. But that was part of the banter. Everyone walked in with a new pair of jeans. Whoever did, those pair of jeans went up there, no matter how much they spent on them, mate.
Yeah, it got to a point where, you were ahead of the game, Joel. No one was wearing anything gear. I remember.
Why am I going to spend £100 when they get strung up there anyway, mate? I might as well spend £5.
I remember years later, Joel. We had a lad called Colin Larkin, and Lark was injured quite a bit, so he used to play tricks on people. And he only told me this after everyone found out. Every day for a couple of months, he took one sock off someone, cut it up. So he left one, and he put the other one in the bottom of his bag where his boots were. And the lads couldn't work out who was doing it. And he opened up the bottom of his boot bag, and it was just full of people's socks, and people were like, "That's that bag," trying to pick them out. Well, it's just the sort of thing that goes on in the dressing room, isn't it?
He was
it is.
Larks. I remember. Did you remember? You can remember he did the Nathan Luscombe. Are we still on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Thanks for us. Nathan Luscombe was a player for us. He padlocked a mannequin to his jeans and he couldn't get it off. So Nathan Luscombe had to open his car window and hang the mannequin outside his car window and drive home with it.
Drive home.
Because he couldn't do
that. Well, it was one of them things where, if you reacted badly, then it would just keep happening to you, mate. So, you had to go. And it was just part of the banter of the team. And, that was something that we got to talk about. After training, before training, all those things.
Yeah, I think the good thing with that group of people and even the staff to an extent that it was spread around. It wasn't the same people that got sort of ticked on it. Like it was one day it might be Joel, next day it'll be Humps, next day it'll be Tink. So it was spread around the group, and it wasn't done in a nasty way where it's like, oh, it's me again. It's like it was, and I think that it summed up the group that everyone was happy to get involved in the pranks and just take it on the chin basically and just accept it.
Yeah, absolutely. All the senior boys got it as well. So it wasn't just segregated to the new lads or the ones that are the fringies or anything like that. It didn't matter whether you were young or old or played 200 games. You know, you were susceptible to getting stuff done to you, that's for sure.
And that spirit has obviously served you well, didn't it? Or you obviously keep in touch still now. Your regular summer trips to Magaluf and things like that. We're obviously got plenty of memories still though.
Yeah, well, we've got memories, just can't remember
The details.
Well, yeah,
No,
it was a lot of good times.
About the broken chair we had. Remember when we had that broken chair? And we used so I know your name got mentioned that, but again, it sort of solidified our group, didn't it? At the time that we were happy to socialise together, and even at the end of the season, we were happy to spend time with each other. And those 3 or 4 days, we just laughed and laughed and laughed. And
some of the best memories, you know.
The next
there wasn't a trip where we didn't have, 18, 20 blokes.
Yeah.
You know, we'd go there and other teams would go there and there'd only be 3 or 4 from each team. You know, we were at Dakar and we had a strong squad of 20. You know, it was like a training session, except it was drinking.
Yeah, I remember being down in Dakar and I think Coops was there. So Coops and Muzzer had come, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Lads were doing the drinking games and you had to do a forfeit. One of the forfeits was that if you lost, you had to go and put your head in a wheelie bin. So your feet.
That's right.
So Coops and Muzzer turned up as Icy, he'd lost. So Icy was jumping in his wheelie bin. Coops, I never forget, he turned around and went, "Who the hell's that idiot over there? What?"
It's one of your players, mate.
Right winger, that mind.
Funny. Well, my first trip, obviously I was, excited. So the first night, lots of drinking, didn't get back till, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And we had rules. You had to be at the place by a certain time. Otherwise you had to do a forfeit. Anyway, I wasn't at the place at a certain time. So got back. I think it had to be there at 11. I got there 11:30. And as I got there, I had a, triple scotch waiting for me. And you had to down it. And to be honest, that was the best thing that ever happened because the hangover certainly left once that happened. I was back half cut and ready to get on it again.
Before we go on, Joel, have you seen the effort I've made here?
What is it? It's a rug.
Surfboard?
Oh, that's not a surfboard. That's a boogie board.
Yeah, I'm only going to have a full-on surfboard in my garden.
Well, you can't call it a surfboard.
It's the best I've got.
It's a bodyboard. I like it though. Where do you use that?
In the paddling pool.
Oh, I love it.
My little girl, we went surfing last year on holiday and we brought them home. So she was actually in the bath yesterday. And for some reason, she woke up wanting to be a surfer. I don't know whether your influence was coming through. So
I can't surf, mate.
We've got a blue rug in the front room. So I put the rug down and put the surfboard on the rug, put YouTube on. She's gone, Dad, I want to see, girls my age surfing so I can learn from them. I was like, no bother. So in YouTube, being a bit naive, I put young girls surfing. Their young girls surfing is 18, 19, 20-year-olds with bikinis up the bum.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I hope Micky doesn't walk in here because she's not going to believe this. But yeah, so for some reason she's been a surfer the last 2 days. So.
Oh, okay, very good.
Just to finish on the whole Magaluf scene, Joel. I know that you said the first year was a particularly tough school for you, and it paid itself. It made it difficult for you on the journey home, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a tough journey home. I look at the time because we go through stages. Each year you have a different drink, but that year was vodka Red Bull. So we were I was drinking gallons of vodka Red Bull, mate. You're buying it by the pint. And I reckon we stayed 5 days that year, Skip.
Yeah, maybe.
Might even been a bit of a longer one.
I didn't drink 5 days of vodka Red Bull, Joe.
Yeah, well, I did, with the occasional triple scotch chucked in. So yeah, so by the end of it, you were, I was pretty much green from the vodka Red Bull and the plane. I just remember throwing up in the airport in Magaluf, thinking, "Oh shit, they're not going to let me on." Going to the toilet, I'm thinking I'm going to miss the flight, the boarding. So I got on the plane, and then pretty much the whole way home, I was throwing up in a sick bag, making noises. Westy does the noises the best.
I remember. I think me and Westy was sat behind you, and we decided to tie your shoelaces to the seat.
That was you.
Yeah, so we tied his shoelaces to the seat, and he tried to get up and go to the toilet, and he just went, "Whoa!" But he had a stick bag in front of him, making all these noises, and the whole plane was creased up.
It was, mate. It was good times. I had no idea, man. I was thinking, what's going on? Why can't I get up? What's the go here? But that's the thing. It was.
Go on, sorry.
It was, it didn't. Whether it was me or someone else, if whoever else was feeling bad like that, they would have got the same treatment, And you sort of learn from your mistakes. So the next year, I wasn't. On the last night, I wasn't quite as bad.
You had to learn that, Joel, not to go all out on the last night.
Yeah, I had some bad influences. I had, who do I have? Boyd, Sweens. Them boys who at the time certainly didn't put their foot on the brake.
Yeah, I remember we used to go to Magaluf, so like I remember going with Ben Clark, so we'd get picked up. Clarky's dad used to drop us off at the airport. You'd have to be at the airport for like 8:30. So we were like, really hadn't slept much the night before because it's like, oh, come on, we want to get
excited, yeah.
We'll get to the airport, me and Clarky would be like, right, come on, pint. And then these lot would turn up from Hartlepool. And one year they had a limo turned up, and we got out and they were absolutely steaming. And
mortal.
We've gone to Magaluf for 5 days. Turn up drunk.
I reckon we were at there might have been a Thursday night at what it used to be called in Hartlepool, Thursday night. It used to be I reckon Chicago Rock, 15 quid all you can drink. I reckon it might have been that before we travelled on the Friday.
That was always a day.
We ended up, oh mate, good times, man, good times.
Going back to the more serious stuff, then obviously coming back after that first season, you've scored the goal against Bristol City, and then obviously things haven't gone as we wanted in the playoffs, but we come back and replicate that and more the next season, 2004-05, where we ended up getting. I mean, that was just an unbelievable season for you on a personal note, but for the team as well.
Yeah, that sort of gave sort of brought me to the fans at Hartlepool that year. It wasn't an easy start to the year because I remember starting and doing okay and then getting dropped, and spending 4, 5, 6 weeks out the team and on the bench on occasions, and travelled to Oldham thinking I was in the squad and get there and Coops doesn't even call my name out. I was looking at the kit man, Darky. This is Darky, isn't it? The kit man. Yeah. I remember looking at him and he looked at me and, just shook his head and went, "No, I've not got your kit ready for you, mate." And that was a tough time. I remember thinking then, geez, okay, maybe it's things aren't going the way I thought it was going and all of that. And
I didn't make it worse by pulling you for the commentary that day, did I?
No, mate. No, I think we I remember Betsy. Betsy came.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, Kevin Betsy. He was with us at the time, and then he left and went to Oldham, and pretty much that day he scored 2 or 3 goals that day, and I think we ended up losing 5-1 or 5-2 at Oldham. But the next game we played Doncaster at home, and that pretty much turned my season and career around at Hartlepool because I started on the bench. We were 1-0 down, and me and Jack Ross came on at the same time, and he put a cross in. I scored a header.
I remember,
and then Matty Robson put a ball in behind, and I chipped the keeper, sort of thing. And we ended up winning 2-1. And pretty much from that time, that's when Coops had a bit more faith in me, and I might have an off game, but he'd still play me, sort of thing. So That's sort of when it turned for me.
I remember you saying before when we chatted that was one of your favourite goals, I suppose, for the Doncaster goal, the second one particularly.
Yeah, the second one. Yeah, that was a good feeling, that one. Yeah, because I had a bit to prove that game, because I wasn't happy that I was sitting on the bench either and not being part of the squad. And the boys were fantastic as well, because they celebrated really hard. They obviously felt for me in that situation as well. So it was just good times. And then the season just rolled on, and the game against Sheffield Wednesday in the playoff final. It's one of them things you can't explain to people, mate. I always tell people I'm Aussie as Aussie, but when that national anthem was being played, I wanted to sing it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird feeling, and a great feeling. It's stuff you're never going to forget.
That season, though, when we went to Cardiff, Joel, I mean, that season, one of its famous points was the partnership that you struck up with Adam Boyd. It was just almost like there's partnerships all over the field, but you two, you seem to know where each other were going to run every single game.
Yeah, no, well, we even played some reserve games together before, because Boydie was in the same boat. He was sort of in and out the squad prior to that year as well. So in the Rezzies the year before, we played a fair bit in the Rezzies together. When he come back, because he went on loan somewhere, didn't he? Boston, or was it? Yeah. And then when he came back, we were together in a few games in the Rezzies, and then there was always a good understanding there, but it sort of just grew. And I think if you look at that season, and Boydie scored close to 30 goals, I scored I think 14.
Yeah.
Out of those 44, 45 goals, the combination would have been at least 2/3 in some aspect.
Yeah.
Whether he was playing me or I was playing him in, or it was just I was making a run for him to be able to receive it, or he'd make a run and then I'd get it, off someone else. And we just sort of knew if he went one way, I'd go the other. And to be fair, I think the lads playing sort of knew as well. It's made it easy. They knew they could play a ball, and that it would stick, or if they played into me, Boyd would make a run, and vice versa. So
I was going to say that, Joel. I mean, especially for the lads at the back, and especially for me, if there wasn't sort of anything on, or we hit like a channel ball just to get them turned, 9 times out of 10 you would turn it into a half decent ball. Do you know what I mean? You were willing to do that side of it. I mean, Boydie, not as much, but you were so unselfish in your running that you would turn a lot of balls that sometimes would even go out for a goal kick or for a throw in. You would keep hold of the ball, and then your link up would come from there. So you were an absolute dream for us at the back, because if you've got someone like you playing against you, it's a nightmare, because they never give you a second. They're always closing you down, always trying to put you under pressure. And we just used to think, what, we'll just put in a channel sometimes, and Joel will turn it into a good ball. And like I say, we were confident if the ball went up there, that there would probably be a chance come from that. And then there was, when we wouldn't score them all, but there would be a little link up, a little trick, a little flick. And it was absolutely brilliant. And sometimes you would just be playing and think, we'll get them the ball and we'll score goals. Yeah. It's a great situation to be.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. That was my game, getting into those areas and chasing them down. And Boydie's game was getting it to his feet and let him do his work in that scenario. So we sort of had those two assets, if you want to call them assets. Yeah. And it made it good for the boys, obviously wanting to play us, and made it difficult for oppositions to defend. And although they were assets for us, I could also link up play, and Boyd could run in behind as well. So we had that option to switch and swap as well. But obviously we sort of knew our role. I sort of knew that was my thing, to sort of get in behind and make those runs and make it difficult. And there was a lot of trust that I'd make the run, that Micky would play it, or the left back Matty Robson at the time would play it, or Bracker, or even Humps when he went back there. You had the trust that if you made the run, they would put that ball in that situation for you. So it made it easy to make the run, that's for sure.
I think I was watching some of the goals the other day, just of that season, really. And there's some brilliant goals, balls from midfield from Tinks, into strikers, little 1-2s, little giving balls around the goal, little
combinations.
And you look and you think, no wonder the fans enjoyed it, because there really is some cracking football being played again, some good players, and the ground's full, and they're coming expecting to see some quality football, which luckily enough, more times than not, they got. But the quality of some of the goals that season was fantastic.
Yeah, we had a good balance all over the squad. You know, we had obviously Strack in the midfield, who was that, steadier and ran the midfield. Tinks, who would be able to play them balls, and Sween's the box to boxer. I remember being out wide and not even thinking and knowing, if it went out wide, I'd cross. Sweens would be in there, along with whatever other striker. You didn't have to even think. You knew that Sweens would be making that run. We had Butler out wide on the right, Humps on the left. So we had, sorry, that's my alarm. So we had, we just had good balance. And then we had the boys that, the squad boys that would come in and fill those roles, like Trigger when someone was injured, or the young boys, Stephen Eystead. And, we just had Bracker, Clarkey playing as well. We Westy at the back. We just had good players all over. And not just good players, just good people, and that made it so enjoyable to play.
How frustrating was it, Joel, on the back of Cardiff and obviously the club getting to the pinnacle of where we thought we were going to get to, and then wanting to build on it? Not just for you as, just not for the club, but for you personally. The next couple of seasons were quite testing, weren't they?
Yeah, for me personally, because I actually did my knee in the Sheffield Wednesday game, not knowing it. But so that's pretty much why I came off. I tore my meniscus. Mm-hmm. And then, a meniscus is an easy fix. But I had 3 operations on it because the 2 times the doctor didn't get it right. So, that sort of killed my next season. On the back of that, there was so much expectation that we would make the top 6 again, if not automatic promotion, because of the boys that we brought in and the year we had previously. And things just didn't go anyone's way that year. It was just a real difficult year. No matter how hard we tried, nothing went for us. On the injury front, on the boys, and it was frustrating for me because you want to go out there and help and play and do your best, and you go into each game and you're watching, you can see the boys, and obviously them, so they're trying their hardest to get out of this rut, but just didn't matter what they did, nothing would turn, and when we did win, it was just so hard to get that win that we couldn't get it back to back. It was just one of those things where we worked so hard to get one win because things weren't going right for us that, by the time we got to the next game, we were mentally and physically frazzled. And, you don't notice it at the time, but when you look back and you think about it, it just, it was just a difficult year that year.
It didn't work for us. And it was just a difficult season for everyone, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, even staff, backroom staff, people in the office, just nothing went right for us that year. And it's a shame because we had the makings of maybe, making that next step. I think, when I look at it, we look at the year we played Bristol City, in the second leg, we were 1-0 up till we had things go against us 10 minutes. Yourself, Micky, got knocked out and had to be replaced. While we're trying to replace you, we concede a goal. And then 2 minutes later, they score the winner, 10 minutes from the championship, Westy gets sent off. These things sort of went, if it went the other way, we would have been in the championship for sure. So, it was just that, I guess, that feeling that, not that we knew that we were going to sort of make it that year, but we had the opportunity with the players and the squad we had to have more of a successful year. Just nothing went right. We had key injuries. Bordy got injured that year as well. So, me and Bordy out both with a knee. You're talking, from the previous year, 40 goals. That's hard to make up in in a season. But the boys tried hard. I think we fought to the end. We obviously had a few issues with the runnings of things and the coaches and things like that. But I look back and sometimes feel a little bit sorry for Scotty as well, because it was his first gig, and that was a tough year to be a first year manager. Absolutely. But that's just sometimes the way it goes, isn't it?
Moving on from there, obviously the club bounced back in 06-07. But again, you were sort of battling with the injuries a little bit as well. It was the back end of the season where you came good again. But then once you got back fit towards the end of that season, I remember you saying to me it was as fit as he'd ever felt.
Yeah. So that promotion year was another good year, good feeling. We got the feeling back at the club.
Yeah.
It was different. It was still tough. It was still, we were still battling to get the wins and fighting for the whole year to get that promotion. But I think in the end we deserved it. I picked up another knee injury on the other leg in about October, November, I think it was, maybe November. And then that set me out until I think it was March.
Yeah.
Before I even got back. So myself, I didn't have much of an impact that year. But, we had good quality. Richie Barker came in, scored loads of goals. Andy Monkhouse came in. They helped us get promotion with all the boys around us. And, that was a good year. And we sort of got ourselves back to, because we had a League One squad still. So it's not easy to go down and bounce back up. So it sort of showed the quality that we had. And then, just starting to rebuild my fitness. And then the next year, that was a tough year for me, because I was fit, strong, ready to play, wanting to play. And in Danny Wilson's mind, he had it that I was, the third string striker at the time. So my role was pretty much on the bench, and when someone was injured or suspended, that's when I would start. And once the other two strikers came back, they pretty much played. I can't remember the other striker. He was from Tranmere. Can you remember him, Mick?
Ian Moore.
That's him. Yeah, because he's Ronnie Moore's son, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it Ronnie? Yeah.
He wasn't there very long, was he? He didn't settle.
No, he was just there for the 12 months. And it's funny because that year I actually, in about January, February, I actually pulled Danny Wilson and said, "Oh, look, let me go back to Australia, mate. You're not playing me, which is fine. That's great. I've got interest from Australia. There's a couple of teams that want me back there. Can you let me go?" And I pulled Russ as well, the director. I forgot his last name.
Russ Green, yeah.
Russ Green, yeah. I pulled them together and said, "Look, it's frustrating for me. I can't just be in this position. Do you mind if I go?" And they were like, "Yeah, if you can go." But at the time, I don't know if you were aware, Mick, but I think I come and spoke to you about it. But the chairman wouldn't let me go because I was on a contract, and I had that I had that clause where the club's got the option to keep me on. And actually, I wrote a heartfelt letter to the chairman and said, "Look, I'm from Australia. I'm not getting a go here. I've got interest at home. I've now got the two kids, so I'm just looking at maybe going back." And in the end, the chairman made a good decision because the following year I had a really good year again. But at the time, I was, it was a difficult time for me because it didn't matter what I did. I'd come on and score a goal and think, "Okay, beautiful, I'm going to start the next week." And it would be the same situation. And looking back at it, being a manager now, obviously Danny had his idea of who would be his strongest squad, and but at the time it was really difficult. And to be fair to Danny, the following year I don't know if, to be fair to him, I obviously had to prove myself that I was, I had to make it that he had confidence in me.
Yeah,
that's what I had to do. So that pre-season. My last year, I, worked as hard as I could, did everything the best I could, trial games, all of that, and pretty much before the start of the season, Danny pulled me and goes, I can't believe your attitude. You know, I know you wanted to go back. The chairman said no. Most other players would have chucked their toys and their dummy out and, you know, wouldn't have done anything. But you've knuckled down, done the right things, tried to get fit, being patient. And he rewarded me, and he started me that year. And my last year, I think I ended up scoring 24 or 23 league goals that year.
There, wasn't it? Yeah. How did you find
So it was
mental toughness then, Joel? To think, well, not to wilt and just say, oh, he's not playing me. I'm not being allowed to go home. You know, bollocks to that.
That's what I tell all the young boys I coach now, mate. It's not your ability, because there's lots. Your ability is the same as everyone else, mate. It's that mental toughness on being able to take the knocks, you know. And it's not just one knock. You know, your knock might last for 12 months, like it did with me. You know, are you going to be one to go, right, well, that's it and move on? Yeah, I tried that, but I wasn't allowed. So I had to find the next best thing for me. And the next best thing was to knuckle down and try and get my spot back. And that's the hard thing.
And then obviously at the end of 2008-9, as you said, you had an unbelievable season that year, and you left as a hero from Hartlepool. And must have been a tough choice though, Seaton Carew or the Gold Coast.
Look, at the time it was the right choice, you know, at the time. But now looking back, I regret it loads. Absolutely. You know, yeah. I wish I'd stayed and, you know, had another 3 years and maybe got a testimonial. And, you know, with England, the jobs, as in within football, are so much more, and there's more opportunities. Whereas back here in Australia, it's just very difficult to find jobs at the highest level, because we've got 10 teams, mate.
Send a lot of pictures of you in your swimming pool, Joel. You were regretting it then, were you?
No, that was good, mate. The first 6 months here on the Gold Coast, we were like Man United. We were travelling by private plane. We'd have massage tables on the private plane. We were doing everything. The owner at the time, Clive Palmer, was, you know, spending the cash, and I thought, whoa, what a great decision this is. You know, the weather's good. You know, we'd have to train at 7 a.m. because it would be, you know, 35 degrees by 10 o'clock where we were staying. So you had to have your training session done by then. So pretty much your whole day was free to do whatever you wanted to do with the family and all of that. And it was just awesome. And then it turned and went to crap. He wasn't a soccer or a football person. So once things went bad, once we lost our first game, I'll tell you a story. About the 5th game in, we were undefeated. So when we'd travel around Australia, it would be private jet. When we did our pre-season games, all private jet.
Yeah.
So we went to Newcastle and we lost by a private jet, and we lost 1-0, I think it was. So we went back to the Gold Coast. And before each game, we'd have a meeting, who's in the squad, and then, oh, by the way, meet in the usual spot behind the airport, because you don't do check-in or anything like that. It's just nice and quick.
No, we've both got private jets. You don't know how to regularly fly from Newcastle.
You boys know what it's like in the private jet. And so we're there, and on the Friday, the coach, Miron Blyberg's going, right, okay, boys, this is the squad. We need to be at the airport this time. Make sure you're at Jetstar to check in. And we're looking at each other going, hey, Jetstar? We don't travel with the public, mate. We're private jets. What's going on here? And we looked at him and said, Miron, what? Is the private jet getting serviced, or what's the go? He goes, no, he's pulled the private jet now. So we literally lost one game. We were still top of the table, right? We lost one game, and he pulled the private jet. And then we played out the year, and we probably should have won the league and all of that, but there was a few other things happening at the time. And then the following year, he pulled the physio money. He pulled all the massages, the doctors, all that. So he pulled that money out. So we had none of that. And then it just sort of spiraled down. And by the third year, he'd been kicked out and wasn't the owner anymore. And we got taken over. And the federation then defuncted the club. And I pretty much ended up in the Gold Coast without a club. And I went to the Gold Coast because there was a future of, coaching the youth team and going through those steps. And then that sort of just went out the window. So whatever I thought was going to happen, we had to readjust. And I ended up coming back to Adelaide, and I had a few injuries and things like that. So I never got back to playing after that 3 years, but I still sort of play in the local league here and coached and all of that. But yeah, I wish now I'd stayed in Hartlepool and played out, till the end, till I could no longer play there. It's a big regret. And, I miss the boys. I miss the camaraderie, and not that we didn't have it here in Oz, because we did, but, the group of lads that we had there, and, like you boys are doing now, going and catching up with each other and, going and having a beer and playing golf. Skip, I'd love to be able to go play golf with you boys again. All those things, you sort of miss them things, and you look back and go, oh well, if I had stayed at Hartlepool, those opportunities would still be there. When I left for Gold Coast, I missed Nelson's wedding. That was a big regret. I wish I could have stayed that extra month to have stayed and been at Nelson's wedding, because the stag doing Magaluf was pretty good. Just all them things. But that's what, sometimes you make decisions at the time and you look back and you wish you'd done it a little bit better. But
just looking back at Hartlepool, then, Joel, I mean, you've obviously got ambitions to coach and things like that, and if there was an opportunity arose in the future, you're so popular at Hartlepool, has there been opportunities in the past to maybe return, and would there be something that would be interesting?
Well, I think I spoke to you. Obviously I keep an eye on it, and obviously know there's been a few, issues, and obviously going down to the non-league and all of that. And I contacted you a couple of times about, put my name forward if they need some help and, want something different, obviously being in Australia and coming from there. And, I would love the opportunity. I don't know if it's the right time now or it was the right time back then, but, if the opportunity ever arose that, would help Hartlepool, because, it's not good seeing them where they are at the minute, because we spent such good time there. We sort of always want them to be successful and not where they are, but I don't know the backstory and all the owners and all of whatever's happened, but to me, I still remember the good times and where I think they should be and where they need to be, not only for us, but for the town and the supporters and all that. If I can help that at some stage, I'd love a phone call from someone saying, "Oh, would you think about coming back to help?" And I don't know whether it would be full manager or assistant or anything like that, but I don't know what decision I'd make, but it'd be an awesome opportunity to think about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think, Joel, I mean, it would be brilliant for the town, it'd be brilliant for the club, but I think you would get a shock if you went to the club now. I really do. I went down to see Simo, how long? Probably 6 months, Simo. Yeah. And there's very few people working there behind the scenes. The offices used to be chock-a-block, used to be vibrant.
Yeah.
Lots of people, everyone, and it's almost, there's no one around. It's like a ghost town, and it needs building back up if it's going to get back to that sort of place that you remember it at. And I think you would. I was a little bit upset, to be honest, when I drove away from having a coffee with Mark. It's sort of, the playing side has dropped a little bit, but the other side of it, for me, has dropped even further. And I think
further, yeah,
it needs rebuilding before the playing side of it can move back up as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they need to go together. It's present for me. It looks a long way off, which is very, very sad.
Yeah. Well, obviously they need to rebuild in all areas. So, once they get that right, then who knows what's needed. I don't know what's needed, but something's obviously needed, isn't it?
I mean, just what Mark said about your popularity. Someone on Twitter when we said you were coming on, sent me a message saying, "Look, Micky, I'm really sorry, but Joel Porter is my favourite player ever." And I was like, "Look, you don't need to apologise." I was like, "If I would prefer Joel than me. I used to tackle people and head it. He used to score one." You know what I mean? So, I mean, the popularity around the town will never ever wane, that's for sure.
So, Joel, thank you for taking the time. I know you've got to shoot off to work now, so we'll not keep you any longer. But thank you so much for getting up, and we'll get you back on in maybe down the line, and we'll do the early morning shift this time rather than you.
You can.
No, absolutely loved it, boys. It's been really good. Appreciate it, and I'll do this anytime you boys want. Absolutely brilliant. And make sure you say hello to the rest of the lads for us face to face. And I love the WhatsApp group. I wake up every morning and I've got about 50 messages on there, and I'm laughing my way all the way to work. So it's brilliant.
Yeah. Joel, just quickly for me, you know how much I love you, mate, and how much I appreciate in the team. And like I say, it's good to keep contact over the WhatsApp, but I promise you, I will come in my private plane one day and actually see.
I'll be waiting for.
I'm not coming when you have to wear a jacket and a hoodie every day, though.
Make sure you come in the summer, mate. You'll just need shorts and a t-shirt, and I've got a bedroom ready for you, bud.
I'm just waiting for an invite, to be honest.
The invite's there. All the lads. We'll have Magaluf in Adelaide.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right, boys.
All right.
Cheers, Joel. Take care of yourself. Have a good day.
Take it easy, lads. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Micky, that was brilliant with Joel, wasn't it? He's so full of enthusiasm still.
Yeah, I mean, I texted him about coming on, and he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to do it." And he said, "I just love talking about those times, the times he spent at Hartlepool, the players that he played with, being in the town." And he said, "I'd love to do it." And he said, "I'll actually go to work after doing it with a spring in my step," because obviously, you can tell when he's talking about his goals to his sons and how enthusiastic he was about that. I love that bit. But he's talking how you just tell how much he loved it. And to get up at 4:30 in the morning and do an hour with us here was absolutely brilliant. But he loves the place. You can tell he would if someone had made a phone call, he'd be back with a drop of a hat to come and help out, which I think shows a lot about him.
He'd be an asset as well. Just his enthusiasm around the place. It'd be brilliant to have him back involved at Hartlepool or any other club. Like, you're brilliant. So, no, I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Absolutely superb, Mick. And we're going to struggle to top that one, I think.
I think each week, I mean, the feedback that we're getting each week is, "Oh, what a brilliant." Like Hendo last week, you're talking about some things that probably are hard to talk about, but I think a lot of people enjoyed it. I got a couple of private messages on Twitter.
Yeah.
Of people who said, "Look, Mick, I felt the same. I've been in similar sort of situations." So it's not always the things that you expect to talk about. Tonight I was expecting Joel to do the 10 questions, and we never even got a chance to ask them because he wanted to talk about other things. And he remembered about regretting going back to Australia. I did not expect that at all. I thought, no, I didn't regret about going back to Oz, but obviously he has. And it's those conversations that sometimes surprise you and make a good episode. So, yeah, that's been absolutely terrific tonight.
Absolutely superb. Well, Mick, thanks very much for your time again, and it's been a really enjoyable evening. I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to Joel and catching up with him. A real Aussie legend. He still walks on water for me. And we'll be back with the next episode of Switcher Player next week. Do join us then.
Thank you.